19 points and counting in game week 8. It has gone horribly for me. We've had 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, 1 point, 2 points off the bench, 4 points for my captain Erling Haaland, 2 points for Dominic Solanke, and just Chris Wood left to play. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here. And today we're having a look at some game week 9 first transfer plans. A little bit of a different intro, and we're going to discuss game week 8 in this video because, of course, I'm sure you're all tuning in to hear me discuss my 19 points in FPL game week 8 so far. It has been arguably the worst game week of FPL I think I can ever remember me having. I've got one player left to play in Chris Wood at home to Crystal Palace tonight. If he doesn't do anything, it will be the first time I've ever failed to get a single return in a game week of FPL. At the moment, I've dropped from 220k to 660k. It's not actually as big a drop as I expected because it has been quite a bad week for a lot of you. If you're having an awful week like me, please drop in the comment section down below. If you're having a really good week as well, we're not going to leave you out. So let me know how you've got on in your week. Of course, if Chris Wood does something, it might hopefully boost me up to about 500k, which wouldn't be the end of the world. 200k to 500k in a game week wouldn't be that bad, but a blank, would leave me about 600k in rank. Of course, Eze has a little bit of ownership still, so it might depend on what he is going to do. Hopefully, Chris Wood does something, so I don't have to stare at a team full of blanks. And then, of course, Mykolenko sat on my bench being my only returner. That makes it even slightly more painful. Now, before we look at potential transfers this week, I do want to, re-say I'm not panicking about this. It's not a bad team. I've been very unlucky, but I don't feel like it's a bad team on paper, and I do still like a lot of the players that we've got. Double arse defense, they conceded to Leicester, they conceded to Southampton, and then Saliba got sent off. They have 3 difficult games on the horizon, but from game week 12, it looks really good, and I still back them as one of the best defenses in the league. Moving into my defense, we had Trent up against Chelsea. Okay, not the best fixture. Could have had something, but didn't. Like, that wasn't exactly where I wanted my points from. Gabriel, as I said, because of the Saliba red card, it is what it is. Manchester City, Rico Lewis found a way, of course, to concede to Wolves very early on. Wolves didn't create that much outside of that. Moving to midfield, Smith Rowe, okay, they didn't do great against Aston Villa, but they had a red card. Mavididi, they've scored 4 goals in the 2 game weeks I've owned him, and he's had absolutely 0 goal involvement. Then, of course, Brian Mbeumo, he's been fantastic. I can't rely on him every week. Didn't get anything against Manchester United. I expected Saka to play, and maybe that was my mistake going into the deadline. I should have assumed more likely than not that Saka was not going to play, and I should have sold him to either Son, who has had a big return, whether lucky to get that assist or not. Feels a little bit lucky that he still got it as the point, but then Foden as well. Both of them did get a return. Foden didn't start, so I'm not massively sad I didn't move there. Up front, we've then got Haaland. We will talk about him and potential transfers and what we think about doing with him. Chris Wood still to play. And then Solanke, they scored 4 goals and he got nothing. He was dropping too deep again. So I did learn some things in this week, but I'm not panicking about this team just yet. As I said, I'm on 19 points. If Chris Wood does nothing, I'll end up on 20 or 21 points. It is a horror game week. So feel free to leave it in the comments. Feel free to gloat if you did better. Feel free to commiserate with me if you did badly. But let's move on and have a look at my team for next week. So I just want to talk about the transfers I planned on making going into game week 8 before the deadline. And that was Smith Rowe up to Cole Palmer and Trent down to Aït-Nouri. And all of these 4 players blank. Now, if I'd have bought Aït-Nouri, I probably would have played Mykolenko. So in hindsight, yes, I maybe should have made the transfers, but the 4 players actually involved in the transfers all blank. So it didn't make that much of a difference in the end. And I still look at this and think this is likely to be the transfers that I make. I haven't made them at time of recording. Saturday, there was no predicted price rises. Sunday, the same. And actually Monday, we don't see any predicted price changes for Palmer or Aït-Nouri or drops for Smith Rowe or Trent because Palmer and Aït-Nouri didn't return. So there aren't loads of people looking to bring them in this week. So I still think this is probably the plan for me this week. Of course, I have 3 free transfers and I could do something else on top of that. Now, I do still look at Cole Palmer and think that he is the plan for me. I still think that I need another premium in my attack because at the moment, only having 2 means I'm missing too many of their hauls. It could be that I want to go Salah in a few weeks. It could be that I want to have a look at Watkins instead of Haaland. There are lots of things that I could potentially change about my team, but I'm not panicking. I still look at those Cole Palmer fixtures and think, yes, long term, that is who I want. Liverpool did a fantastic job of keeping him quiet and keeping Chelsea quiet in general, but we know what he's capable of doing against other opposition as well. So looking at my team going into game week 9, we've got Raya and we've got Gabriel. Both of them have a home fixture, but it is, of course, against Liverpool. I don't plan on selling either of them. It's just a question of, do I start Mikalenko at home to Fulham instead of one of them? But Fulham have been scoring goals, so I don't massively think that's the case. So I currently plan on starting double R's defence at home to Liverpool. We've got Rico Lewis with Southampton at home. He's not going anywhere. And we've spoken about potentially selling Trent. Into midfield, Saka again. If I use the 2 transfers, that is bringing in Cole Palmer for Smith Rowe, I still have a spare transfer. That means if we get to the deadline and it looks like Saka is not going to feature again, one of Son or one of Foden would be that replacement. And I'm almost certain it would be Heung-min Son now, based on the performances that I saw in game week 8. Outside of that, we've got Brian and Boomer with a fantastic fixture. We've got Mavididi as well. Mavididi is just going to stay. I planned on playing him in the game we've just had against Southampton, Nottingham Forest at home and Ipswich away. Yes, if I was making the transfer again, I would buy Morgan Rogers or I would buy Buonanotte, the other Leicester midfielder that has scored twice in the 2 game weeks since I've brought Mavididi in. But I'm not going to go selling him this week, I don't think. Again, I could go to someone at a similar price, but the 2 moves that I'm looking at of Trent to Aït-Nouri and Smith Rowe to Palmer doesn't leave me any money to do much with Mavididi at the moment. So then moving up front, and this is where a lot of the discussion will lie. We do have Semenyo, just to mention, sat on the bench. He does go away to Aston Villa, which is not the worst first sub, but I think I prefer playing Mavididi over Semenyo. Semenyo did have some good chances against Arsenal, so I could play him over Mavididi, and that is something I will consider. But just the fixture means I probably favour benching Semenyo again. And then is the forward line. So Wood, of course, is likely to stay, even if he blanks tonight or there's an even slight injury tonight. I can just play Semenyo over him. So that's not going to be a transfer. Dominic Solanke, he could go for me, but Crystal Palace away this week is not a bad fixture. He's still racking up a lot of XG and he's still involved in a team who's scoring a lot of goals. It's just that he's not involved in the goal scoring. He's dropping quite deep and it's the players like Son and Brennan Johnson running in behind. The forward I really look at are the Wolves duo in Strand Larsen, who scored against City, and Mateus Cunha, who I have mentioned a few times. But I don't necessarily think this is the week to do that because Wolves go away to Brighton and I expect Brighton to win that fixture, whereas I'll be expecting Spurs to win those. So I do think I plan on giving Dominic Solanke one more week. And if it continues again, then I'll be looking to sell him. And he's definitely one on radar. And then we have Erling Haaland. Now, at home to Southampton, I'm not going to sell him. And he's got the County armband on the moment. And there's almost no plan on moving that off him. But I've spoken a lot that I think he's a season keeper, that he's essential. And without De Bruyne and without Rodri in the team, he doesn't look that. Now, if De Bruyne suddenly comes back, of course, Rodri's not going to. If De Bruyne's suddenly back in the team or Foden suddenly starts starting games, then we might see an improved City. And I think Foden at least needs to start. They need at least one of Foden and De Bruyne in that team. And if he doesn't do that, then there's concern for Haaland. But I do think if one of those 2 starts, we might see a bit of improvement. But he needs to be scoring a lot of points for 15.5 million to be worthwhile. And yes, Salah has Arsenal this week. So, of course, doing Haaland to Salah with 2 transfers is not worth it this week because Haaland has Southampton at home and Salah has Arsenal. This is not the week to make that move. But I am looking potentially over the next couple of weeks to do Haaland to Watkins and a midfielder up to Salah and freeing up a little bit of money with potentially another move because I am starting to wonder if Haaland is worth the 15.5 million. 3 blanks in a row without Rodri, without De Bruyne. City don't look the same. They just don't look the same. And maybe it's reactionary. Maybe I need to stick to my guns and what I thought early on in the season. But at some point, we've got to have a discussion about, is Haaland really worth the money? And I never thought we'd say it. I thought he was worth it at the start of the season. I went with him. And I was happy I did, right? Because of how good he was at the beginning of the season. But the results over the past few is making me doubt that quite a lot. So anyway, to talk about transfer plans, I'm not worried about my team. It was a bad game week. It was a horror game week. I'm on 19 points with just Chris Wood left to play. But I don't mind my team on paper going into game week 8. I do like the look of Cole Palmer at home to Newcastle. And to fund that money, it's probably going to be Trent out. I could downgrade Solanke massively to like a Strand Larsen and sell Mavididi and keep Trent. That is another possibility that I know some of you in the comments have been mentioning over the past few weeks. Trent versus Solanke, which is a better option for the next few weeks? Maybe Solanke short term, but probably Trent long term. So that is something I have in my mind, and I know some of you would say it in the comments. So let me know in the comments who you think is more important, basically, Trent or Solanke. And I'd be interested to know who you'd say basically both blanked at the weekend as well. So That's my decision that I need to make over the next couple of days before the price changes to Palmer, because that's really what I'm keeping an eye on as well. Part of me does wonder, though, that I just quite like 8 Nori as an option, so I don't mind bringing him in for Trent. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking about for my team. It was a horrid game week. We'll have a look at how it goes over the next couple of days. Of course, Champions League, and I'll keep an eye on whether Saka is back for Arsenal or not, because I might have to add an additional third transfer of doing Saka to Son as well. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. 2,000 likes is the aim. If you had a horror week or you've got questions about your team, drop it all in the comment section down below. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. If you need a little bit more content, of course, 6 o'clock tonight, the new Know The Score Premier League podcast with myself and Luke Kempner will be dropping on Spotify, on whatever platform you watch, or on YouTube as well. It'll be linked in the description. It'll be linked up above. If you want to go and support there, Luke does grill me on my FPL week as well. If you want to go and listen to that right at the end. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll be back again very soon.